before I actually introduce you to these little gents that I came across on Amazon, so these are known as, they go by a trade name of walnuts or push wire J-box connectors. Now, the one thing to note is if you are going to do any DIY wiring in your home, please make sure that you know what you're doing or that you are doing it to code. Different electrical codes differ from country to country, or in the States they can differ from state to state. If you're unsure of anything, then certainly call in a proper professional, an electrician, to do the work for you. However, so let me just show you. In South Africa, I've been accustomed and used to these kind of what I'd call chocolate block or electrical connectors. They've got screws which house a common kind of metal connector, and you insert wires from either end, do up the screws, and you connect wires that way. Now these will connect two wires commonly, and you can have multiple different wires connected on a strip like this, or you can cut it up into smaller blocks. Now I've been looking for these in the States, and the ones that I've come across in the States, because they're also not commonly used in the States, have been of inferior quality, and that can be dangerous because the screws don't hold properly or they strip, or in fact I've received them where the screws are missing. The other common type of connector one might find in breaker boxes or DB boards are these, where they've got a common copper bus. Sometimes these are bare, especially if you're connecting, let's say, ground or earth cables, where it doesn't matter if obviously the bus is exposed. This one's insulated, so if you're trying to connect a whole lot, let's say a lot of neutral wires together, it's got some insulation, it's mounted in the DB board, and you've got a common bus for connecting them. Once you get to outlet boxes and you're trying to join wires or connect wires together in an outlet box, then obviously the one option is these small connectors. I say small, you do get these in smaller sizes. These can be bulky. They do have their own problems where wires, if you don't tighten them properly, wires can come loose, or over tighten them, you can have issues. And then we obviously get to the kind of commonly used in the US are these electrical wire nuts. Now these orange ones are sized to cater for 14 gauge electrical wire. The electrical wire that I happen to have here is 14 gauge wire, and this can be used for lighting installations. If you want to run wiring to outlets, then you need 12 gauge wire. But again, do go and check your electrical codes to understand what is required. Now, out of interest, as I was preparing for this video, I was testing one of these which I pulled off from an outlet, and either it was brittle or old and it came apart, but it does at least just show us inside. There's a spring inside the top of these wire nuts, which when screwed together holds the wires together. Now I'll just give a quick demonstration just out of interest. I'm not going to use a pair of wires to wrap them together, as I've seen some people demonstrate in videos. Some people say the correct way to do it is literally just to have the wires together and then put them on the wing nut and tighten them together. That does seem to give a good connection if it is done correctly. What people then say also is to perhaps apply a bit of tape around there, just as belts and braces, to make sure you have a good connection. But as I've said, I've seen this where this can go awry. People trying to put too many wires in here, over tightening them, breaking off the copper conductor inside. So that's where I came across these little McCoys. So these are the walnuts, or as I said, the push wire J-box connectors. And as you can see, they're a very simple plastic device, and they've obviously got the conductor in the bottom here, which is set to grip the wire, solid wire, as you push it in. You can use coarse stranded wire, but fine stranded wire won't work in these. I'll show you the specifications on them now, and I'm going to test them. They do say they are reusable, so these are rated for up to 12 gauge, these particular ones, but I'm going to try them with the 14 gauge wire and see if I can remove it and if it is reusable. This one, as you can see, you can actually push and connect 4 wires, common 4 wires together. You do get larger ones that I've got here, which even do 8. This is the box that I actually bought off Amazon. You can see the kind of trade name they've got there. There are 100 of them in this box. I forget the price. I will have them on my Amazon store because I think they are going to be very handy, because I'm going to be doing work in a DB board or a breaker box doing solar power. I wanted something to be able to connect wires fairly easily, and again if I was going to extend outlets. So you can note these are for 12 wire gauge. They note obviously for solid core, for kind of bigger stranded cables, but not for fine stranded cables. They also note the kind of amount of insulation that you need to remove. I have found rather stick to the less than ½ an inch. I have a nice pair of wire strippers where I can actually go and set the measurement on here. And I found that perhaps exposing a little less copper is better because it means you've got less risk of what is exposed once you actually apply the connector. On the back of the box we can see it does provide some specifications in terms of the gauge of wire that can be used, and there it actually says reusable, so that's what we're going to test in this video as well. And then it states a kind of non-reusable where it's 16 to 12, less than or equal to 19 strands, and the other specifications as well. 600 volt, 1000 volt, it says fixtures and signs, temperature rating, and it says CU, so copper to copper only is what it's noted. And then it gives you some instructions of actually how to use it. Right, so in this case what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this wire nut which I previously applied. Now of course one always has to be wary when you get tool markings on your copper. Ideally you don't want any markings on your copper, you want it as clean as possible. But in this case for the demonstration I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And obviously I've already gone and removed the insulation with the wire strippers. So this one is about ½ an inch, this one's slightly less. And then we just get that connector. You can see the tip here is a little bent up. We'll see if that makes life difficult or not. I'll do them one at a time. So you take them into the connector itself and then you just push it in. It slips in, and if we can look carefully we can see how the conductor slips nicely down into the connector itself. I'll get the next one. So a nice firm push, very easy to apply. You're obviously not putting any mechanical strain by twisting the wires together or trying to get them into a wire nut. Because of the amount of copper that's exposed, your exposed copper is sitting down below here, which is isolated from, let's say, if you've got it in an outlet or around other wires. Again, nice coverage around the top and a very snug fit. Really snug indeed, and that's why when I first used these in that outlet box I was really impressed. Nice and easy to use, confident that when they go in the top is not going to slip off easily, and with nice protection and insulation around them. Right, so the next thing I'm going to try and do is to see if these are reusable. Can I actually remove these wires? If, let's say, I'm in the box, I need to check whether the wiring is working or not if I'm trying to troubleshoot an outlet. So that might be, let's say, the one advantage of a wiring nut is you can easily screw it off, get to them, have a multimeter and check what's going on. Obviously you need to be very careful if you've got live wiring exposed and not switched off at your DB board or breaker box. But let's see if these can be removed. Heavens, okay. A fair bit of strain as you noted, but it can be pulled out. If we have a closer look, obviously the tip was where I put it into the wiring nut. So just some marking over there where you can see the actual tool grabbed it. So the next thing I want to see is by pulling it out, can I put it in there and get a good connection where it's held properly and doesn't feel loose. Yep, pushed in and a nice firm connection. So what we'll do next, just to finish off, is I want to check the continuity and make sure we've got some good continuity, especially if this is moving about. Right, so let's just test and see what the continuity and connection is like in this connector. I realize this may be a little annoying with the beeping going on, but let's just see whether the continuity is maintained when I wriggle things around. Yes. So that certainly seems to have a very nice grip on the wires and certainly seems to maintain a